to the end of Pixelated Geeks Day 2, technically Day 0, Number 2 coverage of E3 2015. We just finished our live blog coverage of Sony's press conference, and so I have a lot of things to say about this press conference, and I'm gonna hold most of the opinion pieces to the end, but I'm gonna start off by saying just wow. I don't know. Wow.
It's a great year. Well, it's a great conference because some of these games aren't going to come out until 2030, most likely.
Yeah.
It's a great conference to be a gamer.
Yes, it is.
It's a good year.
It really
and
is.
It'll be even better after tomorrow.
Well, it's bad because of money.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it amazes me, and you know, we're not even done yet because we still have Square Enix, we still have PC, which is the one I think almost everyone is most excited about, and I say
does
that
not matter for money.
Yeah, the thing about Nintendo is like anything that's going to be in Nintendo is going to be like icing. Like if anything cool happens there, great, and if it sucks, then it's not a big deal.
Right.
So Sony. That was a long press conference, but it wasn't Ubisoft long.
It was
longer.
long because it was chock-a-block full of stuff.
They did a really good job with that. One of the things that I've really appreciated about them recently is that, you know, what you get like a minute and a half per game and they move on. And you get a minute and a half per game and they move on. And like we were joking about pie charts earlier, but they spent less time on their pie charts in this conference than I've seen. I mean, they basically came out at one point and they said, yeah, we're still winning. And they said, oh, by the way, you know, here's Morpheus, here's View. And then they were done. Yeah. They were done with their own self-aggrandizing thing. Now, they still have that one executive that they need to go ahead and shoot in the head. I'm talking about Fatty McBlonde with the comb back. Screw that guy. That guy's an idiot. And
Level 38 Warlock. I played Destiny.
Yeah. Just, God. No. Stop. Okay, so we're just gonna go top to bottom, and we're gonna move number 2 there down a little bit, just FYI. So they started with The Last Guardian, which is a title that I'm pretty sure a lot of us thought was never coming out. It was announced a very long time ago, and then the lead left, and then the studio like dissolved, and then they announced that the title was on indefinite hold, and then just a little bit before E3 this year, they said it's not dead. Like, we swear it's not dead. We know you haven't heard anything for like 3 years or seen anything, but it's not dead, and it's not because that was
We're keeping it on ice. And...
Now, granted, what we saw was like 3 minutes of the Guardian being all adorable with his fur and his cut off.
I was going to ask, which one is the Guardian then?
The Guardian is the Griffin.
Okay.
Yeah.
And James made noises.
I made a lot of noises because the Guardian's cute. It really is cute. It's got like a big old eagle face, and it's got fur. It's the little things, and it acts like a dog.
It's gonna die.
It's yeah, okay, but that's how that works. Like, I have no doubt that I'm going to get really attached to it, and like 2 minutes before the end of the game, it's going to die like the horse in Shadow of the Colossus.
No.
That game's like 10 years old. Deal with the spoilers. Just deal with it.
I'm not upset with
You get really, really attached to a horse who's like a boss and awesome, and then right before the end of the game, they just kill it and break your heart. And that's exactly what they're going to do with this. So everybody prepare for that. I'll cry. It'll be okay. That game looks good. It looks good. You're not excited about it because it's not your kind of game.
Nope.
No.
Not many of these are.
I can tell. Yeah. Sony has like a thing.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be like a Sony gamer, and Sony gamers are very like... There's a lot of them that are very like Asian driven, and then there's like the other set that are like really like narrative and like artistically driven, and you have to be one of the two of those to really love Sony. This was a good conference for that.
Oh yeah.
So the next title that they moved on to was Guerrilla, who everybody knows from Killzone. Their new title, which is called Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a post-fall apocalyptic rebuilding narrative. Yeah. You're like a tribal hunter.
Yeah.
You're in a beautiful world that obviously used to be very high tech, with a lot of high tech robots, and there was like an awesome little sequence where you were hunting robots, getting stuff from them, and there was a big old like T-Rex monster. It was
like
beautiful.
Rockets and lasers. And
it's cool.
You kill with a bow.
Yeah, and like it was really interesting because like the characters had this like really like obviously tribal look. Not really. For some reason, there was something about the way that it was animated that reminded me a lot of Heavenly Sword.
Yeah.
Like, her hair was, like, funky, but it was, like,
weird ways.
artistically funky. Yeah. Like, they intentionally did it. It's Gorilla, which means it's beautiful. Like, all their games are beautiful, and all their games have a really specific artistic aesthetic. They use color beautifully. You know, there was some gorgeous foliage animation in this.
Yeah.
It was neat.
Yeah.
And that boss fight with the pseudo T-Rex, the Robo-Rex, looked cool.
Yeah.
It did look cool. So then they announced Hitman. That was a world premiere of a new Hitman, and this is the year of like long-running franchises, not necessarily rebooting, but just going, nah, it's a Hitman game. We're not going to give you a subtitle. It's just we're going to call it Hitman. You're going to buy it. You don't need a subtitle. And that was a CGI trailer.
Yeah.
And I mean,
that was.
it's almost certainly going to be good.
Yeah.
Those games aren't bad. We'll see that tomorrow at Square Enix, almost certainly, since that's a Square Enix title. Then they announced something of a coup, which is that Street Fighter V is going to be a PS4 and PC exclusive. It's on PC because the tourney gamers that play Street Fighter V insist on that for tournaments. But the fact that it's on PS4, not Xbox One, is the first of just a long string of gigantic upraised middle fingers from Sony to Microsoft and Nintendo. And there are a lot of people that are unhappy about that.
Those diehard Street Fighter fans on Nintendo. Oh,
yeah, that's true.
You angry console.
I'm trying to think. There was Capcom versus Tatsunoko.
Playing it on the Super Nintendo still, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that was back when, like, you know, Nintendo had, like, controllers instead of whatever that joke
Waggle your stick to do a grab.
Right. No, seriously, when you played, Capcom versus Tatsunoko, one of the moves was to shake it really quick. Can you imagine someone at, like, Capcom Evo going, no! No, that's what you do when you lose, and then you snap it. You don't need to do that. So then they kicked over to No Man's Sky, which is, again, another one of those PS4 PC exclusives. Now, that was different because their studio flooded out, and Sony was like, would you like some money so we can have a game? Here's some money. Just let us also release the game.
We're going to put you in the basement with everyone else.
Yep.
And
go. And join our indie sweatshop, which is just a little bit bigger than Microsoft's indie sweatshop, which is another gigantic.
But Microsoft swear they have one.
And they do.
And it's growing.
They're like, our sweatshop is sweaty, and you can join it, and we'll pay you a little bit, and you can maybe release your game one day. You just, no, man. I love that indie games have become, like, that, the new, like, it's not a cash cow as much as, like, an emaciated heifer stuck in, like, a really tiny cubicle in the basement of a building being fed, like, half a ration a day, and they're just like, yes! Make us content! And that's what indie gaming is now.
Well, indie is no longer indie. It's really small studio, but the people want to support indie. You don't want to support the team of 5 people who now have a crap ton of money.
We were talking about this
doing it out of their
indie gaming isn't indie gaming if the indie game is published by a massive publisher. Like, if you're an indie developer that publishes exclusively on a console platform, and that console platform pays for your game, you're not indie. Yeah. That's not what indie means. What that means?
It's like Budweiser distributing a craft beer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It may be a craft beer. It's still horse piss.
Handcrafted by 200 people.
That said, No Man's Sky, it looks amazing. Yeah. It's one of those games that, for some reason, there is this congruency between space flight sim and outrageously ambitious. I don't know what is going on with that, but like Elite Dangerous was like, we're going to map the whole solar system, like not system, the whole known universe. Star Citizen is like, we're going to basically take every genre there is and put it in one game. And these guys are like, do you want the biggest procedurally generated thing in the history of the world? Yeah, okay.
I think it looks cool. I think it's got, I mean, obviously a ways to go. But, I mean, what you mentioned, it was going to be like $15 or something?
Yeah, it's like 15 to 30. It's not going to be...
I'll throw that on PC.
Yeah. I think so, because
it needs to look good.
I just want like
really
20
does.
minutes with it first. You know what I mean?
Well,
because it's one of these things where, you know, you can say that you have all these great new worlds, but, you know, how do I know I'm not going to go to this planet and find one almost exactly the same thing, but you're calling it different because the grass is going this way.
I think everybody has that concern about this game, because when you start talking about procedural generation, there's only so much that you can do with procedural generation, and like I think the guns in Borderlands are like a really excellent example of that, because there are technically like an almost infinite number of combinations of guns in Borderlands, but what it comes down to is you have like one of 7 different types, it fires one of 6 different kinds of damage types, and you're going to run across something that's almost just like it 30 times before the end of the game, and I'm very worried that we're going to get to Planet A has a sauropod that's purple and that's 30 meters tall, and Planet B has a sauropod that's like orange that's like 25 meters tall, and it's the same character model, and you've got the same 6 missions on every planet.
Yeah.
And like,
but it's different.
Well, and
technically it's different.
now, and that's the real question is, like, I love the idea behind it. We really need to just see more of it, because we keep getting these 2-minute snippets that are like, warp somewhere crazy to a crazy planet that's crazy different, and like, I'm just worried.
And 3-minute snippets, of course, it's going to look so different and like new.
Well, last year everyone's like, it's going to be Game of the Year. It's going to be Game of the Year. The greatest thing ever. I'm like, but we haven't seen enough to say.
And
this
we
is different
still
from
don't.
Even if it comes out, it's not a $15 game. Is not going to be Game of the Year.
I mean,
it's not.
Walking Dead did that.
Well,
yeah. Walking Dead.
But see, that's they did something really. I don't know. Look, the thing with No Man's Sky is that we've seen like 4 to 5 different 3-minute segments, and I just think that's the kind of game. Like, if you watch 3 minutes of a game like Elder Scrolls or 3 minutes of a game like Fallout, you just don't get an idea of what the game's about. And if this game is of the scale that they're saying this game is of, we're not going to get that from 4 3-minute gameplay segments. That said, still looks really good.
Yeah.
Nice art style. Could be really amazing.
Cool idea.
To be honest with you, if it's $15
bucks,
I'm gonna throw my money at it, and if it's cool for 5 hours, I'm good.
Right.
So then Media Molecule, who's one of Sony's real designated hitters, showed up with something that
they're in the middle basement, not the bottom basement.
They are. Something very indicative of Media Molecule, which is a game that like just defies conventional game design. And it's also indicative of Sony's like sort of direction towards artistic games. It's called Dreams, and it's got a really interesting but unusual visual creation system. And you're able to control characters through essentially puppeteering using the motion controls of the DualShock 4. And that was where it got vague for me. Because that was where right.
Okay.
But it was beautiful.
Yeah.
But essentially all they said was you have these interesting visual tools at your disposal, and you have the ability to manipulate via puppeteering, and then it just launched into like these like vignettes of like different...
I think there was supposed to be like and you can like create a project with other people. You can create one project using parts that people have made. And the vignettes, I believe, there's just an example of like, here's what you can do with this. But can you imagine, like some of those, like one of those sequences was like a futuristic chase through a city on like hover vehicles and there were explosions. It was like a good minute and a half of a sequence. You know how long that would take to do using a PlayStation 4 controller to do individual puppeteering?
That's one of the reasons why I thought it was unusual that they were so vague with it, because that did look like it was something that would have taken a long time to craft, unless there are some really robust tools besides the artistic tools that they showed us. I think they actually did a really terrible job conveying the title.
Yeah.
Because like if that was in fact a crafted sequence, like they made that as like a film, then yes, that's ludicrous.
But when they made that for the show, they didn't make it using a PlayStation controller.
Yeah.
They made it using...
Well, unless it does have like a very robust system a la Little Big Planet that has tools that they just didn't show us. Yeah. And like I think it's very difficult to talk about that title until they show us some of it.
I can't speak with like a certainty about what it is or isn't. I mean, no one really can.
Which means it was a really shitty trailer, and it was a really shitty conveyance of
talking about it.
It's this weird, like, well, is it a game and what is it? Because the thing
is a game?
Well, yeah, I hate using that argument, you know.
Yeah.
But think about it. Little Big Planet had this creation and all that, but it was still a platformer.
Yeah.
And then so there was like, okay, you have all this fun creation thing, but then it's a platformer at the end of the day. Where this is, they're like, it's this, but what else? What else can I do with it? Because if it's just this creative space, which is great,
it's a claymation creative suite.
I don't think enough people are going to go, I need to get that day one.
Yeah.
Where Little Big Planet was like, oh, that's cute. It's like Mario, but I get to make a level.
I think it's another example of Sony's sort of tendency to fund very artistic endeavors that are not marketable, a la Flow and Flower.
I think it
and
might
Journey to a lesser degree, because Journey actually was really critically and financially successful. I mean, I think maybe the other two made it back into black.
They're more of a game though. Like I think of those games, I know what you do in those games.
They were more of a game, but again, I really don't think we saw. I think we saw a vignette of like the tip of the iceberg of what this game is. For some reason, I feel like because it's Media Molecule, there's probably some game in there somewhere. I just didn't see it.
And I think,
and the way he talked about it too was not like there was game. It was just like this, like how dreams are, flitting and they're very fanciful, and here's this thing you can create dreams and share them and express yourself. Here it is. I'm walking away now.
So yeah, there's a degree to which I wonder if like Media Molecule signed up for like a 2-minute slot, and then like they were like, we don't have anything, and it's a week to E3, so can you just stick some stuff together and bullshit, and we'll make a game out of it later. I don't know. Regardless,
or like,
it's really kind of fruitless for us to.
I could see it even not being made into a game, but elements ending up in another game that they do.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that was. Now I'm very interested to see more detail on it, but like this is running into the realm.
So something that was a little bit more detailed, but still kind of vague. Firewatch.
Yes. Firewatch. So Firewatch has been around for a while. You actually heard about this?
Yeah,
before.
a while back on PC when it was originally talked about, and I think the idea they said that your character's has a weird past, and they're not too great, but the idea is you kind of work at a park, and you're supposed to be chilling in the tower, and you end up leaving it.
Presumably, you're part of the Firewatch, which is like a So I'm going out on a limb there.
Yeah,
that's
and
more of that wild conjecture.
You're probably a friend of Smokey the Bear because only you can friend forest fires.
But it looks interesting.
It does.
Yeah, so it's cool. It looks like a cool story. Like so there's some like mystery thriller in there.
Right.
Solve what's going on.
Kind of like Gone Home, where I don't know how much replay value there is.
Right.
But like once you do it, you're like, that was great.
Like Dear Esther.
Yeah. No, I'm interested to see more of that. I do hope it's a digital title, and I do hope it's not too steep, because I'm not sure how much we get from there. Now, we're moving into the realm of some stuff that I think we're going to get pretty acerbic about, but just prepare yourself, because this is where it goes. So, Destiny the Fallen King, that's one of the worst kept secrets in gaming. Oh, I'm sorry, what did I say?
Fallen.
The Fallen King. Yeah, okay, that's different. Oh, he might be fallen. So the Taken King was an expansion. We kind of knew about it ahead of time. It looks to be a little bit larger, but it's definitely an expansion of Destiny as opposed to Destiny 2 or standalone game.
There's a new multiplayer map.
There are
new weapons, new items, new abilities.
Yes, so that how like every character has like 2 slots, and there's a blank one.
Fire revolver.
You're gonna get the third. You're gonna get the third class with the third special for all your characters. And they didn't announce anything on pricing, but it's out this, I think it was like September the 26th. If you're still one of those people who grinds the hell out of the Nightfall and weekly and dailies in Destiny, you're probably going to enjoy the hell out of it. This was the beginning of, well, not necessarily beginning, but this was sort of the biggest of the chain of Sony getting just exclusive content for everything. We've already talked about some things that are PS4 and PC exclusives, but there's a lot of content in this that, from this point out, there's a questionable level of market acceptability for that. So what was it about Destiny that was it was a timed exclusive?
Yeah,
it was like a zone and a map for multiplayer.
Yeah,
and it's like it wasn't even like a few months or weeks. It was like a year.
Yeah,
it's me another one of those like the. Whatever the first instance or whatever that came out for the PlayStation 1 that the
there was
Xbox
a raid
couldn't get for a year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like that.
So, I mean,
at least it's not unheard of before. At least it's like there's some precedent with them doing that for the timed exclusive.
There are, and it's. I mean, one of the things that we're going to eventually start talking about is the fact that for the vast majority of the 360 generation, the 360 got timed exclusives, and now the shoe is on the other foot because Sony is absolutely crushing Microsoft in terms of total console sales, and so a lot of people, and I mean a lot, pretty much from this point to the end of the show, everything said exclusive, timed exclusive on PS4, exclusive content on PS4. It kicked from there to Assassin's Creed. That's not something that's on the list, but that had a 60-minute exclusive mission sequence. I didn't. Was Evie?
Yeah,
I got
exclusive
the
to the
PS4,
PS4,
but I don't think she.
I think they said it was a mission for them.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
and
you can choose how to play it.
They can't do that after what they just went through. There's no way.
But it's getting to the point though where it's like I don't even want to play. Like, I'm not going to buy a new console to play a game for 60 minutes. But it doesn't even make me want to buy the game on the platform I have.
Yeah.
Then that's a very clear sign to me that Assassin's Creed just isn't for you.
Well, I mean, it hasn't been for 3 or 4.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
The game itself looked pretty neat. I mean, we saw just a little bit more gameplay and then a lot more CG trailer. But that's how those games work.
They just gameplay.
Interspersed with it, there were some sequences that were a little bit rough and a little funky with some finishers.
Okay.
So yeah.
When are we going to be number 2?
When are we going to...
I don't know how far down that was shifted.
It was, you know what?
After Morpheus?
I want to do that last. It doesn't... I want to put those two things last. So, Morpheus is Sony's VR stuff. They didn't really belabor it very much. They didn't show that Move controller, which was interesting. But so Morpheus is, and there's supposedly support for that on PC as well. It's a VR headset. They talked about it very briefly and then got out of there because they have figured out that pie charts aren't interesting. View is Sony's exclusive television service, and one of the interesting things about it is this is the first time that I can think of that I can point at something that is like at the point of being retail ready that has unbundled premium channels.
I wouldn't say it's retail ready. They said it was launching
on the verge of being retail ready.
They said it was launching with 4.
And in certain areas.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, the point is it's happening this year.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but in the same way that HBO Now is happening. But right now it's only Apple customers.
Sure.
And then some others.
So the service is eventually, and they had a listed it was 4 rows of 6 each. You're talking about premium channels.
FX. I mean the channels you would look for on TV.
Yeah. And you can pick and choose, and it's delivered through View, which is a service on your PS4. It's also delivered through the Sony TV thing, that little weird stream box that plays PSP games, that sort of stuff. So, I mean, if they can beat everyone else to market, good on you. Do that, because the first person that does unbundled correctly is going to make
it'd be funny
shit ton of money.
That a video game system is the one who does it.
Well, but video game systems really pushed the preeminence of digital delivery of Netflix and Hulu.
Yeah.
But I'm just you wouldn't buy a system for 6 minutes of gameplay. I'm not going to buy a PlayStation to.
Yeah, but remember the PlayStation TV thing is $50.
Yeah.
And it plays PSP games and it delivers that sort of stuff. It can do PSP games, it can do PS Now, it can do, and it's just a little box you plug it into your TV like a Roku.
That's different.
So I mean, we'll see. Again, they just didn't give us enough, but they were also, I think, really trying to avoid Sony's.
They didn't want to say too much.
Yeah, nonsense.
I would also still sit on that once it came out to see if it was retail ready and all that.
I think that's and I think you should, and I think you should. So next was it wasn't actually chronologically next, but it was that wasn't Titanfall 2, was it? It looked a lot like Titanfall 2. Call of Duty needs to just quit, man, because it was derivative. It wasn't particularly pretty looking. it was that a wave-based mode? Was that a campaign thing? I don't know. I wasn't paying attention because
But
that
4
shit
players.
looked stupid. Yeah, it was 4-player.
You can
What?
gear up before the match.
Right, you had a bunch of ridiculous-looking weapons, and you had a bunch of air dodges, and you had a bunch of this. There was a lot of this that was going on, because this is the universal hand gesture for calling an airstrike, for stun a robot with whatever stupid nano-nonsense you have in here. I know that we are not the crowd for Call of Duty anymore, but I can normally restrain my critical bias. That game looked fucking stupid. You're laughing, but argue with me.
Oh, no. We're laughing because it's always been in the past. We can argue with you and you're like, yeah, that Call of Duty sucks, but I'll probably get it, and then we usually get it. Or something along
We
the lines.
usually
And
get it.
And then there's just this, no.
This
Like,
time.
you actually said no.
This time, no.
Like...
No, because it's always been a thing before where, like, you could... There was a thing about it that was new or different or just something, and, like, last year I said no, and then they dropped the Kevin Spacey trailer, and that was a little dirty. That was a little unfair, and it won me back in, but, like, this one, it looks like a mix of, like, Crisis and Titanfall, and I didn't see... They even brought in a mech with, like, a thing that they dropped, and you shot it with some stupid fucking rockets or some nonsense.
And they showed multiplayer footage, which looked just like
It
the last
looked
one.
so much like Titanfall. Like, the jump and the wall runs and the...
Even the droids that fight you look like the ones in Titanfall.
It looked stupid. It looked old. It looked like it was using the same fucking engine it always was. It didn't look interesting. Like, I could not... If you had held the television, like, maybe 15 feet away from me, and you had played Advanced Warfare, and you had played this next to each other, I would not have known the difference. Like, it...
I mean, this game wasn't gonna... This game was not... We weren't gonna rush out and buy it anyway.
Yeah.
No.
And this
That just... It didn't help.
exposure of the game, went in the opposite direction. I mean, it's... I wasn't gonna talk about Call of Duty at all, because I didn't care.
Yeah.
But now they went and did all that, and they put Mr. Douchebag on stage, who I wanted
Who's the worst? Mark Lamia was the worst person at E3 thus far.
Yeah.
It's just...
It made me care enough to hate it to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I did some fun artwork.
So seriously, do something different. Like, take
a break.
Take a step back. Give us a year to breathe. Go back to World War II or something. Just do something different.
Remake, HD remake, Call of Duty 2. Do it.
Just do something different. Because, like, seriously, I was looking at that and I was having trouble identifying it from last year's. It looked completely derivative. It looked like they looked at Crysis 2 and Titanfall and said, we like these things, we're going to copy them wholesale because we don't have any artistic integrity or authenticity or originality at Activision. We don't have anything else. We've got to make a new game every year, and it's that looks so bad. So anyway.
On the flip side of games looking old and we can't tell them apart, there was a little thing of Disney's Skylanders that we're not going to talk about, but there was also a gameplay clip of the mission mode for Star Wars Battlefront,
which was the other thing that didn't help Call of Duty, was that it immediately followed by Battlefront, which
it wasn't going to win anyway.
I know.
But the missions reminded us, seeing Battlefront footage again reminded us how insane the graphics are for that game.
It's
it's
nuts.
So real. It is so real. It is unreal. It is. I mean, it is Uncanny Valley.
I was staring at the rocks in that, and I didn't even know what to like. The character model popped at rocks, and I was like, I can't. The photogrammetry is insane. Like, there's the combination of photogrammetry and the way that they've handled the Frostbite engine has made the best looking game ever. That gameplay looks better than like every other CG trailer we've seen.
Yeah.
Like, it's unreal. It looks outrageous. It's going to be amazing.
So it was a reminder of just like how just terrific that game is going to be, and it was so great to like get that as a palate cleanser
right after Call of Duty. That made me feel so much better. Like I I don't hate shooters. I
Yeah,
don't hate
no,
shooters.
you
I
don't.
love shooters.
You don't. Yeah,
I
you-
do. I hate
you
Call
don't.
of Duty. I hate Call of Duty so much, sometimes I forget that I actually like shooters. Oh, wait, here's Battlefront.
Yeah.
And Battlefront looked amazing. That looked compelling. And I know that there are a lot of people that are concerned about the lack of a campaign, but this
Why
co-op
would
thing,
you, who's concerned about like a campaign?
I don't know. It's
Who?
just...
I mean,
That looked like it's gonna be enough of a PvE experience or a co-op experience that I think we're all gonna
It's
be
like
super
Spartan
happy.
Ops,
Do you-
but in Star Wars Battlefront, which is therefore infinitely better.
And
do
looking,
you really want DICE to write a single player in the Star Wars
No!
universe?
No!
Like, we
No.
love you for
Just
multiplayer,
missions,
but
it's fine.
stop.
Give us like 10 of them, and then
Yeah.
we're gonna play them once. Maybe if you have to make us unlock something, and never touch them.
it's the most beautiful game ever. It's the most beautiful game ever, and I just keep coming back to that. And every time I get upset about things, I'm gonna remember Battlefront, and
But-
it's gonna make me happy. It's gonna be
Yeah.
like the kitty of the video game world.
Speaking of beautiful, we rolled into Uncharted 4.
Just bam, just like that.
Yeah.
Well-
like from one of the
Well,
most beautiful
okay.
game I've
rolled.
ever seen.
We started to roll,
It
and then we
stopped.
tripped and fell on our face and like stared at the ground for a little bit, and then we're like, "Oh wait, reset button."
Reset.
And they
And
didn't,
we're gonna
they didn't deal with it at all. Just to explain the specifics of the nature, they talked about Uncharted for a second, and then they showed like gameplay roll, and there was a quick cut scene into what was intended to be someone controlling Nathan through a crowd, and he just stood there, and he stood there for a long time. It wasn't 30 seconds, but it sure did feel like it.
It was longer
yeah,
than 30
Right.
seconds.
it was
It felt
uncomfortable.
like a minute.
And they dropped it, and then they brought it back up, and they showed the cutscene all the way through. And as soon as it actually started, everybody forgot about it because
It was impressive.
it was
And
really
it was great. I mean, those games. I mean, we said it when we were watching it. It's Indiana Jones video game.
Yeah.
They can't do wrong because they know what fun those games are.
Yeah.
Like there's a moment where you jump off a rooftop, punch a guy, and his gun just like pops up, and he just like grabs the gun out of
it
the
and
air.
then immediately
Yeah.
starts popping away. And that right there, I mean, Naughty Dog hasn't screwed up anything yet.
No.
I wasn't worried about this game, but that little gameplay sequence, and it was actually pretty long.
It was.
It was sort of an action sequence into a driving sequence, into a stereotypical Nathan Drake slams into some shit.
Yeah.
Kind of like it.
And the
it-
driving sequence, like, let us it confirmed that there was still gonna be that wonderful back and forth of the characters
Right.
that
Yeah.
makes those games feel
Commenting
so alive.
on the world.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't linear. It was
No.
very clear that you could take like 3 or 4 different paths. Obviously, I don't think we're ever going to get an open world game like that, and I don't want one
No.
because those games are supposed to be a roller coaster, and to a certain degree, a roller coaster has to be linear.
You
And
don't want a roller coaster that rails. It doesn't go well.
No. So that game looks amazing, and I'm not worried about it. So normally, like Battlefront and Uncharted would have been the highlight of a show. Normally it would have been, but Sony is doing something I don't totally understand, and the what I don't understand about it is Sony is ahead in the console war by a considerable margin. Nobody can argue that their device is less powerful. Nobody can argue that they're not winning in numbers. And they've had a thing in a box in the corner of a closet for a really long time that I always imagined would be what they pulled out when they were about to go under or go red. I always thought that this was going to be their emergency escape from like a terminal descent. They're remaking Final Fantasy VII. Sony is going to release a remake of Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII is going to be remade on the PS4, and what was strange is they said it's going to be a timed exclusive, which implies it'll be somewhere else. Now, I suspect,
PC.
given Square's recent sort of adoption of the PC, like if you actually look on Steam right now, like half of the Final Fantasy games are available on it. So I would be very surprised if that's not the other platform. It might be Microsoft because it is Square Enix and because they do love making money, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be on the Xbox One. But they did. They smashed the glass and pressed the Final Fantasy VII Remake button, and I flipped out. I lost my shit. And the weird thing was, like, that wasn't the only one. Shenmue 3. Shenmue 3, the game that we've been looking for a sequel for ever since the second one, which is, like, the worst cliffhanger in the history of gaming. Like you were like going after the people that had murdered your father, and you got off the boat, and then the game ended, and you were like, "Wait, what happens now? I want to drive a forklift more." No, like I mean, they broke out Final Fantasy VII Remake and Shenmue 3, and let's talk about this because when we looked,
they're doing it via Kickstarter.
Right.
For context,
which is interesting.
And they did a countdown during the conferences, like 3, 2, 1, it's going to start.
And I checked.
Yeah.
And as soon as I could get the page to load, which was like 10 seconds after, it was like $10,000.
And you said it was at 10,000, and there were only like 13.
It was 31 backers.
31 backers, and
so
it hit that
that's
much.
a lot.
We checked when the
money.
stream began. When the stream began, it was at 644,000. I checked shortly after that; it was 651,000. Currently, there are 10,926 backers for a total of $946,949. It is almost halfway funded with 31 days to go. We're going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be funded.
Yeah.
If it proceeds at this scale,
they're going to have
know.
to do something else to give out more copies, unless they just sell it once they actually make it. So if you are interested in getting a copy,
go ahead and do it now.
Well,
go ahead.
And I think
I
the reasoning behind this and the Final Fantasy was they admitted earlier in the year that they didn't have a lot of games coming out for the PlayStation 4 this year.
Yeah.
So to keep you from going, why isn't there anything to play?
yeah,
Let's
and
give
these are
you
games
these.
with no release date.
Right. And
Right.
so by showing you this,
No
this will
release.
have you like, oh, but Final Fantasy is going to come out. I don't know
Right.
when, but you're going to still think
Well-
about it. And it's going to make you feel good.
Where the hell was Kingdom Hearts 3?
I think it's going to be at Square.
Okay, yeah.
And
yeah.
It's one of those things. Yeah, this year
I think
for
Sony had enough.
this year for
It is.
Sony. Well, yeah, but this year for Sony is a bit lacking with games coming out this year.
Because and frankly, like I was actually talking with Andrew about this a little bit earlier. There aren't a whole lot of what we've seen this year. A whole lot that's actually coming out in 2015. Like a lot of what we're seeing is at the earliest March of 2016. And Final Fantasy VII Remake, all they really did was show us like 3 cutscenes.
Yeah.
And that's going to be enough for a while, but am I going to see that this year? No.
No.
Am I going
You're
to
not
see
gonna
it?
see it in
Am I going to see?
2016?
No, I'm not. We're
No.
gonna. It's going to be like spring of 2017 or something like
If
that.
that.
But
When they have a slow day.
they did it though. They did it, and so Microsoft had a good year. They really did. Microsoft. There's something in me, and I don't know if it's fair, but I just don't like the Xbox One. I don't. I admit that. And like, I'm not totally sure it's unbiased. A lot of it has to do with the way that they treated the consumer before the release of the console, which was stuff they went back on, and that's fine. This year, they did a lot of crazy shit. I mean, backwards compatibility is a huge deal. That new Xbox One controller is fucking awesome. Now, I'll be damned if I'm going to pay $150 for it, but that thing is awesome. They had a really good year.
It's a great year for everyone, and
So
I
far.
know.
Well, but
Everyone's
Nothing is going to come out of that PC conference. It's going to be disappointing.
No, but see, what I'm saying is Microsoft had a really good year, and Sony kicked them while they were down. Like, they were coming back up, and Sony said, you know what, fuck you, here's the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Fuck you, You can't do anything. We're gonna drive you into the ground. And then they hit with a bunch of either timed exclusive or exclusive content, and it just... Like, it was brutal. Like, it was painful.
I don't feel it that way, and it's probably because I've never played a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
Never played a Shenmue game. I'm not really the prime audience for most of the Sony games.
Right.
So, all these timed exclusives and stuff, and even like I was kind of bugged about Destiny, and then I remembered Fallout 4 and Battlefront, and
But even
I know I'm
Battlefront
not gonna
has
get those.
exclusive content.
yeah, but it's gonna be exclusive content like we suspect in terms of missions, and I'm gonna get it on PC anyway.
Yeah.
Like those two games, the two games that are making me like, oh, okay, I don't need to be upset. I don't have a PS4. Is because I have a PC.
Yeah.
It's not because I have an Xbox One.
Yeah.
I'm very, very happy with the ones I have, and yeah, it's mostly because the big games that are going to come out that we've talked about, they're going to be on PC as well.
I'm very glad that what we're seeing is a lot of cross-platform stuff. There's very little in the way of like straight-up exclusives. It's just there's something that is kind of like cutthroat about the way Sony's secured exclusive content this year, and that's what it is. Like I tend to prefer my PS4 to my Xbox One. I'll admit that, and I feel weird about how cutthroat that is. But without question, it made for a hell of a show from Sony. Even without the Final Fantasy VII and the Shenmue thing, they would have had a really good show. But that was just a fucking coffin nail. I don't know. I mean, Bethesda was great. Everything but Ubisoft was great. And the funny thing
was
is,
the true loser.
It really
the
was
true loser,
of the
which
conference.
Is sad.
And the funny thing is, like, it wasn't even what they showed. Like, Ubisoft was the only disappointing conference, and I think a lot of their games look really strong.
Yeah.
It's
Well, we can't tell.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, like their pre-rendered trailers and stuff, they're usually fairly true to the end product.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can settle a lot of fears with gameplay.
Yeah.
That you just kind of you leave those questions in the air. You ignore them, and that's not that great sometimes. If you just keep doing pre-rendered.
Well, I think it's also now, after the whole thing with The Witcher and Watch Dogs, it's smarter to show the game. Because it's better to show a game that looks good now, and it could look even better when it comes out, than have this thing that looks so great now, and you're like, oh my god, you watch it, and then you get the game.
There's nothing worse than over-promising and under-delivering.
And
There's
the
nothing
Division,
worse.
The Division pulling a Watch Dogism, at least they've been honest enough to show gameplay as it goes.
Right, even how it looks. And
so
I think it's smart to show gameplay nowadays.
Yeah.
It's because I'd rather be like, okay, that looks good now. Probably in 6 months it's going to look even
That'll
better.
look- yeah.
Because the build they showed was 4 months old. So,
and you can defend that more easily. Yeah. I mean,
versus saying we had to take shortcuts. Sorry.
Yeah. And you don't want to do that. You don't, because we've seen the way that particularly the PC community responded to Watch Dogs and The Witcher 3. And like, it's great that The Witcher 3 ended up being a wonderful game and very rewarding and treated its fans well, because
if it
hadn't been for that would have been raw. Okay, so on the whole, really exciting day. Lots of really good stuff.
I'm glad it ended on a high note. Because if Ubisoft had been the last one, I would not be looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, we could have just quit. We could have just bet. And so anyway, tomorrow we've got Square Enix, we've got Nintendo, and we've got PC.
Whatever that means.
I'm super excited about it because I think it has the potential to be really crazy. But
Skynet is going to roll up. Karen Gabe Newland's back. And he's going to be just throwing Steam coupons everywhere.
I like this. Scoop. You heard it here first. All right, sweet. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you guys tomorrow it starts at 1, starts at noon. We'll see you guys
earlier than we want to be awake.
Yeah, so we'll see you then. Have a good night. From Pixelated Geek, this is James Honeygut.
JJ Crass.
And Taylor T.
And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.